Meeting of the Brainerd HRA Board of Commissioners, and roll call is going around if you have a chance to sign that in. I would also acknowledge that City Administrator Nick Royals is present and staff. So with that, we're on to item number 3, review and approval of today's agenda. Looking for a motion to approve.
Motion to approve, Erickson.
Is there a second?
Second for Coda.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. We have an agenda. We now move on to item number 4. We have an oath of office for Commissioner Jeff Chesak.
Yes, and I will take that item, Mr. Chair. That memo is on page 3 of your packet, up on the screens as well. Councilmember Jeff Chesak was appointed to the Brainerd HRA Board as the City Council liaison by the City Council at their May 18th, 2026 meeting. Mr. Chesak will be filling the remaining term that is being vacated by Councilman Kevin Yeager, and that term is set to expire on December 31st of 2026. If you'll recall, City Council liaison typically goes in a 2-year term once they kind of reshuffle their other boards and commissions that they are on, and they typically set that for a 2-year period. So after December, if Councilman Chesak remains, he would likely have another 2-year term that he would be looking forward to on here. If you are so willing, Mr. Chair, I will administer the oath of office to Councilman Chesak to become a commissioner.
Please.
And Jeff, if you wouldn't mind just raising your right hand and repeat after me. I, Jeffrey Chesak,
I, Jeffrey Chesak,
do solemnly affirm
solemnly affirm
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
that I will support the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
Constitution of the State of Minnesota,
and that I will faithfully and impartially
and that I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties as a commissioner
discharge the duty as a commissioner
of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority in and for the City of Brainerd,
of the Housing and Redevelopment Authority in and of the City of Brainerd,
to which I have been appointed
which I have been appointed.
to the best of my knowledge and ability,
That's my knowledge and ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Mr. Chesak, you are officially appointed into our board. Welcome.
Thank you. Hold a round of applause.
Jeff, welcome to the board.
Thank you.
Forward to your contributions.
Thank you for asking that microphones are on. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
It doesn't happen all the time.
All right, we are moving on to agenda item number 5, which is the approval of minutes from the regular board meeting of April 22nd, 2026. Looking for a motion to approve.
So moved, Crisula.
And is there a second?
Decker, second.
Thank you. Any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, same sign. And is there an abstain on that? Okay, we're good. Now, we're moving on to item number 7. We have no unfinished business, so we're moving on to new business. 7A is the ACOP update over income limits, and this is presented by Housing Manager Gangle. Is that correct?
Yes,
Thank you,
Chair
Hannah.
Duval. My report will be attachment 3 in the packet, page 11. So in front of you today, I have an update to our admissions and continued occupancy policy, specifically relating to our over-income limits. So as described in my memo, the ACOP is a document that tells the public, applicants and tenants, and public housing staff the policy decisions of the Brainerd HRA for the public housing program. To help ensure compliance with Section 103 of HOPMA that placed an income limitation on public housing tenancies, I have included the new income limits that I am looking to update in our ACOP. So this rule established a maximum income limit equal to 120% of AMI and is calculated by multiplying the very low income limits for Crow Wing County by a factor of 2.4. HUD establishes these amounts annually and must be reflected in our ACOP no later than 60 days after publication, and these were effective on May 1st. So that is why I'm bringing it to you today. And so included in my report, I have our over-income limit policy, but today I'm just updating the over-income limits that are listed on page 14 of the packet. Are there any questions for me?
Questions of staff? So Hannah, the policy language is not what's being addressed. Simply the table with the lower level and the upper level.
Correct.
That are shown is what we're adding or revising in the existing policy.
Yes, yeah, simply updating the over-income limit numbers that HUD established for 5-1.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, Mr. Chesak.
could you tell me specifically who sent you this notice that it needs to be updated?
HUD publishes this annually, every May 1st.
Okay.
So it's an annual update.
Thank you.
Other questions of staff? All right, well, hearing none, I would be looking for a motion to approve Resolution 2026-03, the updated admissions and continued occupancy policy.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second that, Erickson.
Okay, any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying,
Mr. Chair, I will call roll for a resolution.
yeah, I was just about to say that. I'm pretty sure. Thank you, Mr.
You're right. Commissioner Chesak,
Yes.
Verkota,
Yes.
Erickson.
Yes.
Grasula,
Yes.
Decker, and Duval.
Yes, that resolution is adopted.
Thank you.
We are now moving on to item 7B, the HCV leasing update.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. That memo is on page 17 of your packet. It's also up on the screen if you're following along up there. Got some good news on this update, but I'll go through the memo quick, give you the good news after that. So as previously reported to the board, the voucher program ended 2025 in shortfall after our HAP expenses, our housing assistance payments, exceeded the amount appropriated by HUD. The agency qualified for HUD shortfall assistance, received approximately $14,000, I think it was between $14,000 and $17,000. As a result, we were currently in shortfall prevention status going into 2026 and have been advised, and we have been directed to limit costs and not issue new vouchers until HUD releases us from that status. We were advised that this decision would likely follow receipt of our 2026 funding allocation, which had been expected in late April. To date, we had not received, or to the date of publication, had not received any updated information on our allocation or proration. Staff has continued to contact HUD for updates with our field office and our shortfall prevention team to emphasize the local impact of this delay. Each month that we go without approval reduces our voucher utilization in Crow Wing County, so less vouchers out there to be utilized by prospective tenants, and may also affect our future funding, as 2027 allocations will be influenced by our 2026 housing assistance spending levels. As we've continued to follow HUD guidance and monitor our expenses monthly, and we use HUD's tracking tools. They have a 2-year tracking tool that we utilize to keep our program costs aligned with the anticipated allocation. Based on our current projections, we believe that the program can resume leasing without creating a shortfall risk in 2026 once HUD authorizes us to start leasing. Timing of that authorization remains uncertain. Just wanted to make the board aware of that issue that we were working through. As I said, I do have some good news. As of yesterday at about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, HUD did send us notification that we were out of shortfall and out of shortfall prevention, so we are able to start leasing. I have been working with our voucher staff to make sure that as soon as we got that information and the go-ahead, that we'd be able to start leasing again. And so we hopefully are going to be able to get some in for 6/1 still, which is good news. We'll be kind of going full bore, getting vouchers leased up. I want to say we're right around 290 vouchers that we currently have leased. And remember, we have 324 available to us. So we've got a good gap of about 34 vouchers that we could get out onto the street to help individuals in Crow Wing County with housing. So very, very happy with that. Again, as we produced the packet, had not had that good news, was feeling a little frustrated with the process. Thankfully, timing prevailed and we're good to go here. Wanted to ask if there's any questions from the board, given any of that information or now the new information.
Thank you. Questions of the executive director? Mr. Chesak.
Yes, Eric, used the term leasing, and we had a discussion earlier, and I think I covered this, but Do we call this a lease because it's terms we agree, we have with a tenant and a landlord? Is that why it's kind of referred to as a lease? Is that one of the reasons perhaps?
Yeah, so we've got an issued voucher, and then once that voucher is issued to an individual, then they enter into a lease for accommodations at some point. So we enter into a contract agreement with that landlord, whoever it may be, and then also the participant. So we do utilize that terminology pretty interchangeably, but I certainly can understand if it gets a little bit confusing.
Yep, I guess if people aren't aware of that, I don't know, their eyeballs might roll back in their head going, what are you talking about? To some extent, not knowing, so thank you.
Understand.
Appreciate the explanation.
Yep.
All right, other questions of the director?
May I again?
You may, Mr.
Why this difference between, or the estimate of, I think you said 14 to 17,000, that's because things can change, or?
No, I think I just had the wrong number. I bet our finance director, Young, could probably tell me exactly how much it was.
I believe it was like 16,800, just under 17,000.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I try to have that photographic memory. Doesn't always work.
Didn't use the flash.
Other questions? Hearing none, thank you for that report, Eric. We are now moving on to item A on the agenda, Bills and Communications. 8A, Financial Report. This would be Finance Director Young. Karen, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair Duval. My memo is on page 19 of the packet and also up on the screen. I wanted to give the board a couple updates. The first one would be that we did receive our 2026 Public Housing Capital Fund Award dollar amount. It is $538,126. It's about $6,600 more than last year's grant. It is the highest funding that we have received to date. And again, this is grant funding that we receive from HUD that we use on our public housing properties. We have 203 public housing properties that we own in the city of Brainerd. So we received this capital fund award from HUD to use primarily on capital improvements and maintaining our public housing. And then as a small agency with under 250 public housing units, HUD also allows us to really use this funding interchangeably with our operating funds. If we do draw it down to use for operating expenses, it loses its identity in HUD's eyes, and we don't have to spend it on capital improvements. Typically, what we've done for many years now is we put 66,000 of it into our operating budget and then use the rest on capital improvements. It ends up being about 12% of the funds. As a small agency, we could draw it all down into operations and then use it as we so choose, but we don't do that. We spend it primarily on capital improvements. Any questions on that item?
Questions on that item? Mr. Chesak.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Do we have a 5-year or 10-year SIP we look at every year, or?
For public housing, we do have what we call a 5-year action plan.
Okay.
So we update that every year, and it goes out, again, 5 years of projects that we anticipate or our physical needs assessment for our public housing properties. It goes out 5 years, and then every year that we get our awards, so now we just got our 2026 funding, we'll have 2 years to obligate it, which means enter into contracts for those dollars, and then we have another 2 years to actually spend it.
Okay.
So we have 4 years to work through the process with HUD. And then of that 5-year action plan that the board approves every year, those are the projects that we can select from and pull into our budget for the current capital fund.
So then this 500,000+ that we get for capital it doesn't cover maintenance, it's just improvements.
It could cover maintenance if we chose to draw it just into operations. If we had budget deficits deferred maintenance where we wanted to use capital fund
Okay.
to cover that. We could do it, but everything that is in the 5-year action plan would be primarily capital improvements. We do have tenant damages in there
Okay.
as a line item, but primarily it's capital.
Do we have any big ticket items coming up this year or the next year that you can tell us about?
John could speak to that.
Yeah, thank you, Commissioner Chazak. Currently, it's 2025 funds that we are spending now. We have some erosion happening on the back of our office building. We've noticed the ground settling away when we were doing some other work, so we had Kilo Engineering come and do an assessment of the stability of that slope because we're on the river there. And we're awaiting the results of that to get their recommendation on how to correct that. So our plan is to use those funds to help stabilize that slope behind our office building.
You expect that this year?
I'm sorry, what was it?
Do you expect that this year?
Yes,
Okay.
yeah, they just completed the assessment a week or two ago, so typically a month or so for them to compile their results and make the recommendation, so,
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
thank you.
Other questions, or you want to move on to the next item, Karen?
Sure, I can carry on. The next thing I wanted to update the board on is that for our new Bring It Home rental assistance program through Minnesota Housing, so our state rental assistance program, we did request and receive 50% of our eligible startup costs. The state allows us to draw down 50% of those funds, so we did, which was $51,320. The intent of those funds is for agencies to cover their administrative costs while we're still implementing and getting the program up and running. So it's to cover costs until we actually are receiving our full admin. So we drew those down, and then we also drew down 2 months of HAP. So the state is also allowing us to have kind of a cushion, 2 months of HAP up front that we're holding. So that was $47,825. I'm sure most of the board remembers in the past year or two with our Bridges state program, the state got behind on reimbursing us. You know, they fell behind, I think, a good 4 months or more. So we were having to cover the HAP payments for that program until the state got us reimbursed. So now we'll have a couple months buffer if the state falls behind. They assure us that they won't, but just in case. So we did draw down that funding last month.
Trust but verify.
Yeah. Yes. Any
Right.
questions on that?
Questions on the Minnesota Housing Bring It Home program?
Okay.
Hearing none, please proceed.
Okay, and then also just reflected in our April financials, we did process 2 payments for our North Star office remodel to High Tech. That was for $33,898. We did draw that out of our 2025 capital fund grant. So the total contract for that project is $139,164, and we are using 2025 capital fund for that project. And that was updating the housing office in North Star Apartments in our high-rise, making it secure. Now we have it secure and just updated it for staff, have new, I think, heating and cooling in there, reconfigured it a little bit.
May I ask a question?
You certainly may, Mr. Jezik.
So you kind of mentioned the capital dollars we are using. Based on what we received, would I be able to get a fund balance from you on that, where we're at? I mean, do we try to use that every year? Is there, if we don't use it, do we expect to not get as much, or is that is that how it works, or?
Yeah, actually, like I had mentioned, with a capital fund grant, we have 2 years to have it obligated
Okay.
in HUD's eyes, and we report on this monthly to HUD and the HUD system. So we have 2 years to obligate it, which means have a signed contract.
Okay.
And then we have another 2 years to actually spend the funds. So we do update that in the HUD system every month, where we're at with obligating and then expending the funds. And we are actually scored on that for our HUD scoring for public housing. We do have a line item, it's in the ratios that we provide the board. There's a capital fund ratio that's 5 points. So if we were to not adhere to that, then we would not receive those points in our scoring.
Okay.
And then, yeah, right now for the 2025 grant, which we're currently working through, we have about 392,000 that is not obligated yet, that is not spoken for. As John mentioned, once we get a signed contract for whatever work we're doing on the back slope of the office, once we get a signed contract, then we'll report to HUD that that amount is obligated, and they'll track it that way for us.
And then if we use it for operations, that's just like an obligation that we've signed, in essence?
Yep, HUD actually,
Okay.
for operations, once I report that it's obligated and draw it down, they consider it taken care of.
Thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Welcome. All right, other questions? Regarding the individual budgets, Karen, the rehab budget looks like it's running a little hot right now. You about a little under half spent in the first third of the year. Are we at all concerned about that?
Actually, for rehab, primarily most of that is for our Minnesota Housing Loan Program. So for this year through April now, we've only received, if you look up in the income section, this would be on page 30 of the packet, is our rehab financial statement. We're showing other income MHFA revenue of just under $10,000. And then if you look at our contract costs, about 2/3 of the way down, we're showing 101,000. About 92,000 of that is rehab loans that we're paying for the work being done, and it's revenue that we received from the state last year. So when you see that we've got a $99,000 shortfall, about 92,000 of that is just because we're spending down fund balance. It's restricted funds that we've received from the state previously, and now the contractors are actually doing the work and we're paying the contractors for those rehab loans. So it's actually, I did a quick and dirty before the meeting, it's about an $8,000 shortfall. So that's why it looks so odd, as we're spending rehab funds that we've already received.
Thank you for that explanation. Other questions? Yes, Mr. Cheswick.
On the rehab, I'm kind of new to this. What are we rehabbing? What's that money for? What's the rehab on?
If I could answer that, Councilman Chezak, rehab involves a couple different programs. The Minnesota Housing Finance Agency program that Ms. Young just spoke about are state dollars that are pretty much unlimited. Everything we do in rehab is income-based. So we are able to help, that's 30% of area median income. So that's kind of the lowest of the lowest income earners. They can get up to $37,500 total for repairs on their home. And that rehab is different than remodeling. To rehab means basically we can put back what is there. So the bread and butter that we do are windows, siding, door replacement. We can do some accessibility needs. We're restricted. We can't put in, we could do new countertops in certain situations. They can't be like a solid surface or granite. They have to be a medium quality. We can't use the cheapest or the most expensive. It's trying to help maintain the housing stock we have, improve the life for the people living there now, but to also maintain that home should those people move on. It keeps something affordable. Another pool we have is Small Cities Development Program. Those are competitive dollars that trickle down through the Community Development Block Grant funding. because of the size of our county and community, we have to apply for those dollars. If, like St. Cloud, any county over 200,000 or any town over 50,000 automatically gets the CDBG dollars. Because we're under that, then we apply for it. So we will propose doing, currently in Southeast Brainerd, we have a small cities grant where we're rehabbing single-family homes. It can be owner-occupied or single-family rental homes. That grant is set to expire September 30th. We do have interest, so we're gonna ask for an extension on that. We also applied for a Small Cities Development Program grant for the Washington Street reconstruction. So we can get up to $600,000 for that. That grant was awarded. The city of Brainerd is actually the grantee with that. We just administer it on behalf of them. And then we have the Housing Trust Fund program that we can rehab homes with. Each one of those programs have a little bit of different parameters and guidelines on what we can do with them. But housing is always the key to it, is maintaining the housing for income-based.
So the first item you mentioned for the rehab from the state, the parameters are different from that to the Housing Trust Fund money for rehab?
Yes, and the biggest difference, Mr. Chezak, is the income limits you can make.
Okay.
So the MHFA, people can earn up to 30% of the area median income, so HUD determines what our average income is for the area. And if you make up to 30% and don't have over $25,000 in assets, you can qualify for that grant. Essentially, it's a grant. It's the only program we have that we could rehab mobile homes with. None of the other programs allow for it. The Small Cities Development Program, people can qualify if they make up to 80% of area median income. They can only get $25,000, both forgiven, deferred loans that are forgiven if they're carried to term. And then the Housing Trust Fund, we can go up to 115% of area median income.
Okay.
Those dollars do get repaid.
Okay, thank you very much. I
Does that
appreciate
help?
that.
Okay, thank you.
Good info. I appreciate that.
Other questions on the financial report? Hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion to approve the payments as presented in the packet.
So move.
Is there a second?
I'll second Brookoda.
Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed, same sign. All right, that's it. And we're moving on now to our rental assistant programs report. That'll be rental assistant manager Mallory Demo. Mallory.
Thank you, Chair Duval. My report is attachment 6 of the packet on page 41. The HCV program hasn't had a whole lot of movement since we have been unable to issue vouchers and lease up. But we did receive our CMAP letter and score from HUD, receiving an 81%. I believe we talked about that last month with the audit findings. So we are all the way through that process now. The second paragraph there, I'm happy to say that Eric already touched on, and we're gonna start leasing up and issuing vouchers as soon as possible. The only other thing that I will mention, on page 42, for the Bring It Home Rental Assistance Program, under the additional info, I did decide to add some of the May numbers in there, because all the zeros up above weren't really fun to look at. Jasper's been very busy this month, issuing 16 vouchers and getting 11 people moved in for May 1st, which is wonderful, and he has plenty more to come for June. Other than that, that should be it for the report. If anybody has any questions, feel free.
Questions of staff? Thank you, Mallory. We are now moving on to item 8C. This is our housing manager, Hannah Gangle. Hannah.
Yes, thank you, Chair Duval. My report is attachment 7, page 47 of the packet. Vacancy report for April is attached. Valley View Townhomes is sitting at 95% occupancy and with a waiting list of 23 applicants. Couple Ross program updates. We're still sitting at 32 residents as a part of the CSFP food box program. We have not held any events in April due to the exit of our Ross coordinator. Events will resume as usual once we have filled that position. And to jump in that, we have completed 1 interview and another 2 this week. So the applicant evaluation process is ongoing, and hopefully we'll have an update for the board next month on that. Jumping into the data in my packet, couple differences from previous months. Our recertifications, you will see, are higher than normal. That is because we are working through the North Star recertifications, where we recertify everyone on July 1st. So a little bit higher than a normal month. So we work through all of those. And then I can report that the eviction in process has been fully resolved with a move-out date scheduled. So that is all I have today, unless there are any questions for me.
Questions of staff? Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
We'll be moving on to our housing management, or excuse me, our rehab programs report, and this will be our rehab director, John Schomer.
Thank you, Chair Deval, members of the board. The memo is up on the screen, or also on page 51 of your packet if you're following with as attachment 8. We're a small cities development program. The current Southeast grant that I had mentioned earlier, we did have monitoring on site in April for that. We did get the final report for that monitoring. Would just like to give a shout out to Finance Director Hillman here with the city and Ms. Thompson with the HRA. That, I think, just mirrors the work they put into it. There were no findings, some definitely good comments from DEED staff, and it's definitely due to the work they put into it. So if there's any questions on that report, what we consider pretty standard, they go over the basics of the report, the financial management. What we're doing is for environmental review, which is taken care of largely at the beginning, but then as we determine the addresses, there's an additional form that Ms. Thompson does. So then how we're handling the lead with those different projects if it's applicable. So the Inspire, if the board remembers, we did have our inspection earlier. We did finally were able to access the Inspire report. That is on page 60 of the packet. It's not a very detailed report. It's just basically 1 page with the total number of units and buildings that were inspected. It does call out some of the deficiencies they found, and that was outlined in the letter we received from HUD. It's on page 62. This is more of a form letter. They do call out the deficiencies. We had 5 life-threatening deficiencies, which were on 2 of our scattered site units. The tenants had combustible items piled within 3 feet of the furnace. So those were 2 of the deficiencies. At the North Star Apartments, some of the sprinkler heads in the pantry or entry closets of some of the apartments had items within 18 inches of them. So that was found as a deficiency. In one of the scattered sites, we had unsuitable tape on the dryer venting. Instead of a duct tape, it has to be a foil tape, so that's been corrected. The severe deficiencies were 2 fire doors that had holes in from replacing the closers with different models, so it left a hole in those doors. And then they found 4 GFIs that were either inoperable or missing. And the moderate deficiencies were largely loose toilets, 6 of them. There was a window screen that had a hole, one of the trash chutes didn't close fully, and then the fridge door gaskets, the white covering over the magnet was tore on 2 of those. And lastly, the low deficiencies where we had a bypass closet door that had come off the track in a scattered site unit. And then 2 of the shower heads they tested had leaks on the fittings going up to the shower head, so they were cited as low deficiencies. So kind of a broad overview of what went on with the Inspire inspection and the deficiencies. All of those deficiencies have been mitigated is the term that's used, and that's been entered into the Inspire website, and HUD has acknowledged them. So any questions for me on the Inspire stuff?
Questions of staff? Mr. Chesak?
Yes, do we use our HRA staff to do these inspections?
This,
hired out?
HRA staff goes with, but these are federal inspectors that HUD contracts with.
Okay.
So they're independent contractors that conduct the inspection.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Other questions of staff? Yep, your
John, is it you?
microphone, please, Wayne. Thank you.
John, is it you that goes with them?
Yes, myself and our maintenance lead.
Okay.
All righty, any other questions of staff? Thank you, John. We're moving on now to item 8E, Executive Director Report from Eric Charpentier. Eric.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My report is on page 67 of your packet, up on the screen as well. Just wanted to give the board an update on Wright Street and the development we were looking or working towards with Central Minnesota Housing Partnership at that site that is city-owned. We were in front of the Planning Commission last Wednesday on May 20th to review a rezoning request due to the fact that that is zoned industrial. I believe it's industrial, and looking to rezone it to a more housing-friendly zoning description of CN2. There were also a conditional use permit, which that multifamily unit would automatically fall under the relegation of a conditional use permit. So that was something that would have been required, and also a proposed, I believe there was a variance request as well. So that was reviewed by the Planning Commission on the 20th, and the Planning Commission did deny the requests for the CUP, for the rezoning, and for the variance due to various, I think, situations. One was, some of the comments that we received from the Planning Commission were that this really looked like spot zoning, something that the Planning Commission and the city has really tried to shy away from doing. There was some public feedback from some of the adjacent landowners and business owners that just were not super supportive of a housing project going into that specific location due to the fact that there is no other housing around it at that point. And so that was the decision on a 3-0 vote to deny those. That does go to City Council at their next meeting, which is June 1st, for review. I would not expect that that would carry at the council due to the findings from the Planning Commission, which makes sense. But the City Council is an independent body. They do have the authority to rule either way or impose any other potential conditions or send it back to Planning Commission. Don't necessarily think that would be the case at this point. I've spoken with CMHP, Central Minnesota Housing. They are still very much interested in working with us on a housing project, a tax credit project. If this site is not the site, there are other sites that are potentially available for sale on the open market in the city of Brainerd. So staff, number one, would be requesting that we continue to work with CMHP to see if we could find other viable opportunities for potential purchase of land and bring that back to the board at some point that we do. But also to give you a heads up that this likely puts us out of the running for a July application for tax credits for next year because of the tight timeline on finding another suitable site. We're still excited about the potential for a housing project that hasn't waned. We knew that there were challenges with this site, particularly with sound. That was the other item that we came or had some feedback from at the Planning Commission was that, in an industrial area, you're going to have industrial sounds, and that would have been subject to, any approvals would have been subject to a sound study, and mitigation efforts, I would assume, would have been part of that. CMHP and our staff were certainly aware of that. But if it was a perfect site, everyone would probably be building on it. And so we knew that there were challenges, and that does happen from time to time. So number one, just wanted to give the board a heads up on where things are at. We will have another discussion with council feedback on the 1st. I will attend that in person just to answer any questions if they have any, but there is no public hearing. The public hearing actually happened at the Planning Commission. And then if there's any questions for me or any feedback, I'd be happy to listen and move forward in whatever manner you would like me to.
Thank you, Eric. A 3-0 vote sounds like a pretty thin vote, but 3 members of the Planning Commission recused themselves from from that particular agenda item for reasons of potential conflicts of interest. And so that's why you're hearing such a low number, and, you know, and there are, you know, it barely made quorum. So that was challenging, but I think the discussion was very thorough and appropriate. I serve on the Planning Commission, as does Commissioner Grisula. And so both of us were members of the audience for that, and I appreciated the thoughtful discussion of our colleagues on the Planning Commission there. So, any questions of staff on the Wright Street report?
May I, Mr.
You may, Mr. Chesak.
So Eric, when this development was proposed to the Planning Commission, it was a 50 unit, I understand?
That's correct.
And then and I understand, Eric and I talked earlier, so I understand there was a couple $100,000 in change that the HRA board was able to provide for that developer to incentivize that development. Is that a correct way of putting that?
Yeah, we've got the funds available from the sale of Trail Ridge that we could offer up once we would enter into an agreement or a partnership agreement.
So based on that, how was it determined by the developer? Was it a request HRA board here made, or staff, to come up with 50 units? I'm just kind of curious how that got.
Yeah, so that really was a proposal of the developer months ago, back in the fall of 2025. When we entered some discussions with CMHP, we brought them up to Brainerd to walk the property.
Okay.
And physically take a look at it, make sure that they were aware of any sound issues, and to physically just know what they might be proposing to build there. From that meeting, CMHP then looked at what kind of designs would fit on the portion of land that we were proposing to look at with the EDA and the city council. And from there, it was approximately 5 acres, maybe 5.5 acres that we'd be looking at. And with that model, they've typically built, or they have in their history built, a lot of these kind of 40 to 50 units. So that is their, I think, sweet spot. And as they had their architects work on that site, that was the number that they brought back to us.
Okay, so it's Central Minnesota Housing Partnership?
That's correct.
And they would actually have been the developer on.
The developer and then part owner, partner.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And CMHP is the manager of another, owner and manager, I guess, of another property off of Oak Street, probably a few lots in west of the intersection with Highway 25. So they currently have operations in the city and a presence here.
Thank you.
Yeah. Does that complete your report?
It does, Mr. Chair.
Okay. So with that, maybe I'd turn to Administrator Broyles. Do you have any comments?
Mr. Chair, I do not, but thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for being here. Moving on to item number 9, Commissioner comments. Justin, would you like to kick us off?
I have nothing.
Nice. Janet?
Ditto.
Okay. Wayne?
Welcome, Mr. Chesak. Good to have you on board. Appreciate your input and questions, and that's always helpful to all of us. So thank you. Welcome to the board here.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Wayne. Ally?
Yeah, well, Wayne stole what I was going to say. Welcome, Jeff. Thank you for your questions as well. It is nice to hear again. So, that's it.
Thank you. Mr. Chesak?
Yeah, I just was curious. We don't have a public forum. How come?
Just hasn't historically been something that we've had public here for. Certainly something that we can add to our agenda if there becomes a need for it, but that is at the direction of the chair and the board. If they would like us to have a standing public forum, we certainly can add that too.
I've always been of the mindset that if you don't offer one, you won't get anybody. So, and I think on every committee, commission that we have, that the council makes appointments to, from charter to transit to EDA, planning, zoning, we have public forums. I was just curious if there was a specific reason why we didn't, so. maybe something, would, you know, commission would consider that, I guess.
Yep.
I'd be in favor of it.
Thank you, and
That's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, and we can discuss that, I think, is an addition to our agenda format.
Yep.
I would like to also echo the welcome, Mr. Chesak, and look forward to your contributions. And this is a remarkable organization, as you're probably were able to glean from staff reports. We have exceptional staff here that are very talented and knowledgeable and creative. And so I look forward to you getting to know them as well as your fellow commission members. So, but welcome aboard, and I think you'll enjoy this assignment. So with that, our next meeting is, I gave away my agenda, the 24th of June here at Council Chambers. And with that, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make that motion, Vercoda.
Is there a second?
Becker, second.
All right, any discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, aye?
Aye.
All right, we are adjourned at 1:46. Thank you, everybody.
What time is it?